In the deep dive tonight, is big tech having its big tobacco moment? Last month, a New Mexico jury found that Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, failed to protect children from sexual predators.
A day later, a California jury found that both Meta and Google designed their platforms to be addictive to young people and that they pose a threat to kids' mental health. Now, Congress is debating legislation to require tech companies to have more child safeguards.
Tonight, our I-Team investigator John Barr begins a series of reports about what's being done to protect our kids online. He joins us live now with more.
Well, Michelle and Josh, lawmakers have debated dozens of bills in recent months aimed at keeping kids safe from predators on the internet. But so far, it's been a case of a lot of tough talk and not much action. January 31st, 2024. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and other tech leaders came to D.C. to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. It did not go well.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
It's turned into a war.
Maureen Flatley is president of the nonprofit Stop Child Predators.
If anyone thinks that this approach is going to protect kids, they're out of their minds.
For decades, she's lobbied Congress as an advocate for exploited children.
We have a much more serious problem than the problem you see in front of you today.
That was Flatley 20 years ago, talking about children being exploited sexually online as part of a broken international adoption system. Even then, Congress was sounding the alarm about the threat the internet posed to kids. Not much has changed. Lawmakers have introduced dozens of bills in recent months designed to protect children. But those bills and many others are stalled in committees. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley doesn't think that's a coincidence. How would you describe the influence big tech has on lawmakers in Washington?
But pervasive and malign. How about that? I mean, their influence is enormous. And it's based on money, tons and tons of money.
In October, Hawley introduced legislation to ban AI chatbots targeting minors. But it's also getting nowhere.
The truth is, I've often said there ought to be a sign on the floor of the Senate that reads, paid for by big tech.
When you hear big tech get demonized, what's your response?
When you look at every successful criminal prosecution of a child predator, of a sextortionist, virtually every single successful prosecution begins with a cyber tip that Santa does not leave under the tree. It comes from a tech company.
Flatley is talking about the cyber tip line, operated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In 2024, the most recent year numbers are available, the cyber tip line received more than 20 million reports of suspected child sexual exploitation.
What's the point of having a policy approach to this that yells at the company but doesn't yell at the criminal? It's like blaming a bank for being robbed.
As far as Flatley is concerned, almost none of the current legislation does anything to go after the predators who target kids online.
Criminals are laughing at this because none of these bills go anywhere near them. And law enforcement is in the middle.
Today we're here to introduce the Renewed Hope Act.
First introduced by Texas Senator John Cornyn in 2024, the Renewed Hope Act was reintroduced this year by Florida Representative Laurel Lee.
When we have trained experts who understand digital evidence, who know how to investigate these cases, who know how to identify children, we have an extraordinary rate of success.
The bill would add 200 forensic analysts and investigators to the Homeland Security Investigations Unit responsible for stopping online child exploitation.
I was a federal prosecutor. I worked with these agents in particular on this type of case, and they have an incredible ability to stop predators, rescue children, and frankly, we need more of them.
You can't sue your way out of this. You have to arrest your way out of this.
For child safety advocates like Maureen Flatley, this may be Congress's best chance to hold criminals accountable by focusing on enforcement. The alternative is what she fears the most.
My biggest concern is if they pass a bad bill, if they pass an ineffectual bill, they're never coming back to this issue. They will have checked this box. They will have fixed the problems of child exploitation, and they will move on. In this business, in this work, you spend a lot of time stopping bad bills, because if you don't, you never pass the good ones.
The Congressional Budget Office estimates it would cost $250 million to fund the Renewed Hope Act over 5 years. So what would all that money be spent on? Next week on 7 News, I'll show you as we go inside Homeland Security's Cyber Crime Center, or C3 as it's known. Michelle, these are the men and women who work full-time to hunt down the people who prey on kids online and rescue kids. It is tough work and essential.
Yeah, essential indeed. And that brings me to my next question, John. We know Homeland Security has been impacted by this partial government shutdown, which is set to end now, thankfully, with the president just signing off on it. But they were without funding for months. How did that impact their work?
Fortunately, it did not impact the frontline investigators. They were deemed as essential personnel in law enforcement, but it did impact some of the administrators. We know that a number of them went without pay, which could not have been easy, but to their credit, the work continued. And we look forward to highlighting some of that next week.
All right, look forward to your reporting, John Barr from our I-Team. Thank you so much.